The gentleman yields back. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Oregon, Mr. Bentz, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks to the witnesses for being here. I think this question eventually will be for Ms. Sagama, but let me just go through some language out of a report regarding the $1 billion that's been thrown at our permitting difficulties. And it seems odd that anybody would dispute that we have permitting difficulties when we threw $1 billion at it to try to fix it. But this language out of a report from Bloomberg says the problem isn't going to get fixed by throwing money at it. Mario Loyola, now senior fellow at Competitive Enterprise Institute, the problem is structural. It's not that we don't have enough people, it's that the permitting process is insane. This little potpourri of odds and ends and these little baskets of money are way too little, way too late. I guess my first question is, true or false? We've got $1 billion. It was suggested by the ranking member that the problem has been addressed. Has it been addressed in a way that's going to make a difference? I'm asking that question.
Oh, I mean, as far as throwing money at it, like, I agree with you. It's about making the parameters of NEPA sane and focusing it on the task at hand.
And how would, and I understand that under the Trump administration there were steps taken to try to help, and those were then reversed when the Obama administration, when the Biden administration took over. So what should be done? And I know this is the third time you've been asked the question, but
No problem. I appreciate the question. Really focus NEPA on the impacts from the project, not 10 years of studies on air impacts 200 miles away, or it's got to be the impacts of the project, and it needs to be a tight time frame and making NEPA documents so that the average person can read them and understand what's in them.
So it's long been my thought in watching these processes that they have become politicalized, and thus it's no big surprise that there would be a 10-year delay on oil or fossil fuel development. But is it your thought that we're going to see less delay when it comes to a green energy project?
You would think so, based on how politically favored wind and solar are. But no, they're facing the same kinds of issues we are in the oil and gas industry. It's
not hugely surprising given the opportunity to litigate and delay and do all the stuff you can do with NEPA, which is a fertile field for we lawyers that choose to engage in those kinds of activities. Do you think this $1 billion in some fashion can be used to try to head off some of that delay? I'm on the Judiciary Committee. I often think we should be looking at means of reducing the delay opportunities inside civil procedure, for example.
I think it would probably take other legislation, because right now judges are just, you can take a 5,000-page NEPA document and you can find a judge that's going to say, oh wait, this analysis here wasn't done quite the way it should have been done. Yeah. Forget that it's highly complex.
Let me hop to some of the suggestions that I've read about what we might do in the alternative to that, which we now have. One is pre-approval of project sites. Another is competitive net zero grants to states. A third is federal energy corridors. Now, federal energy corridors leads me to calling something out that people seem to ignore, and that is the incredible cost of green energy when it comes to transmission. And I don't want to say I'm amused. I think I'm discouraged by the fact that if we're going to have a clean energy future, it means that our nation is going to be crisscrossed with all kinds of 500 kilowatt power lines. I've had one run through my district back in Oregon. 15 years to permit. No surprise, nobody wants a 500 kV line going through their backyard. So I'm just curious, though, why don't we hear more from the green energy advocates about this cost? Because it is a cost, I guarantee it, when you suddenly turn a bucolic, rural neighborhood into an industrial transmission site. So what's your thoughts there? Do you think that this federal energy corridors is a good idea?
I'm not as familiar as with that, because I focused, my producers are at just the wellhead, but I think Mr. Sandberg maybe could answer that question better than
Sandberg, we have 20 seconds. You have 20 seconds. You have 15.
14, 13. I think that transmission build-out is important, not just to clean energy, but to all generation sources. I think we need more of it. I do agree that there are common sense reforms that can be part of this package that can expedite the permitting of those projects.
Thank you. Yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The chair recognizes gentlelady from Florida, Ms.